growing up, I mean, it was like everybody in class said, I want to be LeBron James, an astronaut, or the president.
Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Mike Howard Art of Ronin Leadership podcast. We're actually coming to you on an evening podcast for once, and we're going through a big thunderstorm right now, which is, for those of us who live in the Northwest, not such a big deal, but I think for a lot of Las Vegans, this is like a really big deal. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody who subscribe to our podcast, but also people who have commented, and we really appreciate the feedback. If you like what you're hearing, please hit the subscribe button, obviously, and we'd love to get more subscribers. Also, please, if you don't have a copy of The Art of Ronin Leadership, please buy a copy. We just wrote the book earlier this year, getting a lot of good feedback about it. And you can find that either on MikeHowardAuthor.com or on Amazon. And of course, the podcasts are on basically all the social media platforms that host podcasts. Tonight, I should say, is a really special night for me. Our guest is not just a consummate professional in the media. He's also a personal friend, someone my wife Janice and I call our son, affectionately. We met Mike Davis, who is a Fox 5 reporter, at a social function earlier in the year. We just hit it off. And it was ironic because of all the people in that function that we went to at the Westgate Hotel, you were the one I really wanted to meet. And we ended up connecting towards the end of the evening, and it just turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful time and blossomed into a great relationship. But Mike Davis has graciously taken his time out of his very busy schedule working for Fox 5. Those of you who followed my career here post Microsoft knows that Mike interviewed me here. He brought his crew here and interviewed me, and it was just a really seminal moment in the time that we've been here in Las Vegas. So Mike, please, with heartfelt thanks, welcome to our show, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to come here.
Of course, anything for you always. And it's just been amazing getting to know you too. I mean, the best way to describe it is the way you and Janice have treated me. I mean, being from the East Coast, moving to Vegas, getting to know you guys, it's been like having like a family, here in Vegas. So it's meant the world to me.
Awesome. And this is a first for this podcast, right? Because I figure it's the evening.
Yeah.
It's happy hour somewhere. So we are having James Bond Vespa Martinis. Cheers.
Yes.
As we do this podcast, please don't judge us. We're adults, and we're having a good time.
If Mike Howard makes you a Vespa, you got to drink it.
Right.
It's kind of the way it works.
But so this is a podcast on leadership, as you know.
Right.
But it's a podcast on people's journeys.
Should I leave? Am I a leader?
Oh, you most definitely are.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I'm not in the wrong place.
No, in my eyes, you are a leader. And we'll get to that. But certainly, everyone I've talked to, they've talked about their journey, and everybody's journey is different. And we'll go into a lot of different areas. But I guess to start with, you're very well known here in the Las Vegas area. There are obviously folks who subscribe to this podcast are not from this area. So give our audience a sense of your journey. How did you end up here in Las Vegas, Fox 5 News? What led you here?
Okay, so I'm 29 years old.
Okay. You a youngin' boy.
Well, I connect well with... I don't connect so well with my generation, right. I think, in some ways.
Right.
But I think that's why part of when we met each other at that party, it was so natural. It was just like we had so much to talk about that it was almost immediate, that we knew in our hearts, like, oh, I'm going to know this person for the rest of my life. Right. It was one of those weird moments. But basically, here's my story. I'm 29. Since I was in 4th grade, I remember the exact moment when I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I think when you're a young kid, I think to you, actually, when you were showing me pictures of you as a little kid with the holster and the gun and wanting to be a cop and, you know, having an affinity for that kind of stuff. I think a lot about that because I think the way your career kind of took place and took shape from Oakland PD to CIA to chief security officer at Microsoft, like, I think you had a vision of something that you loved, but even when you're a little kid like that, you don't know how the journey is going to take shape or form. Right. You know, you're like, I like the elements of this, but how do I get to where I want to be? And that was me. In fourth grade, I knew I wanted to be like a David Letterman.
Wow.
And
was it because you saw entertainers on TV or radio personalities, or
it was a mixture of two things. Really, my parents really treated dinner and having dinner together as a very serious and important thing. Mm-hmm. And even though my parents both worked and they would come home late, we always made it like a thing to eat dinner. And some nights, even when I was in elementary school, we'd be wrapping up dinner and like Letterman would be getting into his monologue. And that's,
right.
Excuse me, on the East Coast, that's like 11:30.
Yep.
You know, so we kind of, you know, that was very important to us. So there's definitely like an osmosis or just having that on and seeing the reaction from my parents and loving that. There was something that informed me there. But in fourth grade, I did a presentation on the silverback gorilla in Mrs. Martin's class.
You remember the name of the teacher, right?
I remember all my teachers. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, school was a little... I loved school in a sense, but I didn't take to school, so I still can't add. If I'm on a date, I'm pulling out my phone to do, you know, calculations with Tim. All that kind of stuff.
That's why you're related to Janice and me, because we're the same way.
Exactly.
Right? We're Asian and we can't add for anything, you know.
So it was just one of those things where I was presenting in Mrs. Martin's class. I had to do a presentation on the silverback gorilla. It was my first time ever doing a class presentation. And I just started riffing. I got out all the talking points about the silverback gorilla, but at some point something happened inside of me and I started riffing and the class really responded to it. Funny enough, Mrs. Martin called my parents after the performance and basically said he was inappropriate. And, in certain ways, I remember certain details that they don't really matter. But I was a smart ass. And, but my parents never really took, even as I got older and got some detentions here or there for just being funny sometimes, they never really scolded me in a sense where like you're being a bad person or something like that. It was always something where they recognized, oh, something with this performance thing is speaking to me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we, as great parents like they are, they really built up a confidence in me and tried to do everything possible to kind of facilitate that. The problem is when you're that age, it's not like playing soccer or trying to do something else. You don't know how to develop that skill. So basically, I just looked at the journey of my heroes, and by 17, 18, I was doing stand-up. My dad would take me to open mic nights, and I kind of did bits that were very David Brenner or Gary Shandling-esque.
Oh, yeah. Those are old school comedians, yeah.
I mean, what are you supposed to do when you have a great life, your childhood's great, you love your parents, you have friends, maybe girls don't like you, but you can't talk about that all day. Right. So you're just kind of like, you have to basically come up with material and just, so it was very natural for me to do kind of like a Jon Stewart-y look at the newspaper, David Brenner, just kind of, yeah. So that kind of is how I got my steps in kind of getting to where I was going, but I still didn't know what to do. So from there was many steps of NFL Films, working in production, to Howard Stern, to Northwestern, and getting more of a formal education in broadcast journalism, to becoming a sports reporter for freelance for Comcast Sportsnet, to becoming a morning show host in Texas, to becoming a talk show host in Texas, to then coming here.
Wow.
So it's a long journey for 29, but it's crazy when you look back and you try to think about, you know, a dream you had or something that you just loved, and how you try to just piecemeal things together and figure out like how am I going to get to this place?
Right.
You know, I mean, is that how you felt? I mean, even though you had that yearning and something, there was a fascination about being a leader and being somebody who had a responsibility. You know, you took to something like that and that sort of thing. And then how did you get to deciding, okay, I'm going to become a cop? You know, it's that kind of thing.
See, that's what I love about you, because you're always the interviewer, right? So you ask, but I think this is cool. There are a couple of things that come to mind in your story. You're right. There are some parallels between the two of us.
Right.
What struck me was when you got in trouble, you know, with your teachers, right?
Yeah.
And so it reminded me of earlier in the book I talked about when I was a cop.
Yeah.
And I did something, you know, I made a big mistake when I was in the police department, you know, and an arrest went south, as we called it. And my Sergeant Nishihara at the time could have done, you know, one or two things.
I remember in the book, the prostitution arrest.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't going to mention it, but thanks for mentioning it. Yeah.
It's great. The book's really, The Art of Ronin Leadership. You better watch it and listen to it. It's amazing. It's a great read. But there's so much in there. And before, just to interrupt, I mean, part of the joke of me earlier saying, what am I doing here? I'm not a leader. Part of one of the great takeaways from your book is that I think the biggest takeaway is that anybody can be a leader.
Yep.
So that's part of, I was doing a foreshadowing joke in the beginning, but continue. In the book, this is one of my favorite stories. You're young, and mentorship is a big theme in the book.
Right.
And this mentor in your life could have used that as an opportunity to really hurt your spirits, because you thought you knew everything. You're hot shot, young,
which I was.
Police, but you're on the scene, and you didn't realize the prostitute knew the law better than you.
Yeah, I was a green rookie, right? You know, but the point is, your dad could have handled it one of several ways, right? Because you got your ass slapped by the teacher. And so, but he took that, he looked at you and kind of looked at not just the superficial, you did something bad, but there was something in the act of latent talent that he obviously recognized and over a period of time nurtured.
Right.
And which is amazing, right? I didn't get that. I got spanked. That was like my nurturing. But it was awesome, right, to do that. You know?
I think it was critical. You know, I really do, because I wasn't a bad kid. It was just a moment where I was acting out a little bit, and really in that moment, there's moments where I've gotten detention and they were completely well-deserved for, you know, acting out with substitutes. I mean, listen, substitutes.
Oh, they're fair game. They're fair game.
This particular moment, I really didn't deserve it. And the truth is, that's one of I think public school education is a really important thing, because I think you really find yourself, and it was big for me in developing and trying to find out who I was. But teachers a lot of times can't take the time to really, every single student, try to figure out what speaks to them, you know, and it's unfair to expect that every teacher that you're going to meet in your life is going to be the person when your parents are away from home that are, you know, witnessing, oh my God, I see a little bit of a flicker in Mike's eye today. Like, this is something I should really, you know, try to inquire about within him. And I think that's what's so great is, like, when you have an amazing support staff at home with great parents and a brother and people who love you like that and are really want you to do everything that makes you happy, you don't need Mrs. Martin to see that in you. Right. You know, and that's what was so special for me, is that I could go home and whatever happened during the school day, I didn't need somebody there to be the figurehead that's going to, like, recognize something in me. I had that, you know, and that was which was so special, you know? Yeah. So, you know. But
I need to answer your question too. Right. Which is, for me, it was maybe a little simpler, but it was, you know, my dad and I didn't have a great relationship, but he always provided, you know, and my mom was the one that, you know, was the one that was the nurturer, right, and everything. But it was, for me, it was pretty simple as a kid. There was right and there's wrong. And I always wanted to be the one to protect the people who were bullied or who were being picked on or who were weaker, right? And I saw the police as the entity that does that kind of thing. It was simple, but it's also true to a large extent. Obviously, there's a lot of permutations with that over the years as I've grown up, but that was kind of the impetus for me, and in many ways, my worldview, though it had been tainted, obviously over 40 years of doing different things, at its core, they're still right and they're still wrong, right?
But why do you think, because I think about this all the time.
Here's the interviewer again. I love it. Well, I don't know. We're just friends. We're talking.
To me, it's so, and that's why I think you're a wealth of knowledge, and I want to constantly learn from you. But, what's so interesting is a lot of kids at a young age take to something.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you think, have that love and that affinity for, sticking up for, the person who can't be represented or something like that, and wanting to be a leader and wanting to be in a responsibility role like that? The way life happens, I mean, we're drawn in so many different areas. I can look back on my own life, and there were so many times I could have taken another easy way out.
Sure.
And it's not easy. It's just something that would have derailed me from really what I wanted to do. Right. But for some reason, I stuck with it. Why do you think you did? Because I don't have that answer for myself still.
I mean, as a kid, I believed in right and wrong. As a kid, I was also fairly weak physically. I was never good at anything physical. Like you take the physical fitness test, Mike Howard's usually running last in the pack, right?
Really?
Oh yeah. I played junior high school football. I sucked as an offensive guard.
Maybe we are related.
Yeah, right. And then I played tennis in high school, but I was on the C team. I lettered, but only because I existed. But when I got into martial arts at age 14, it was the only thing physically that I was really good at. Right? It was the only thing. It was like a fish to water, right? And besides learning how to defend yourself and getting confidence that way, it was this philosophy behind the martial arts, and it paralleled directly with my simple brain about right and wrong. Right? I mean, the whole philosophy of martial arts is, like, I remember as a kid, 14 years old, first lesson, a bunch of us were joining together. Our sensei, Chow Hoon, he said, "What's the first lesson in martial arts?" And we all, we were watching Kung Fu back then. So Bruce Lee movies, like, basically whoop someone's ass, and he's, no, run away. We're going to teach you things. You could kill people.
Right.
You have a moral responsibility to run away until you're cornered. Or if you see somebody that needs help and there's no way that they can defend themselves, you help them. And it paralleled with my innate sense of right and wrong, and that's what kind of moved me forward, right? Yeah.
So it spoke to you. It's like it clicked.
Yeah, it clicked.
It was like you had this feeling that you've always felt, and then you finally, kind of like the stand-up thing for me. It's like the performance quality, like, wow, I have this personality that's kind of like interest, but how do I like share this with the world? How do I do this in a way that just doesn't, make Mrs. Martin upset? How do I do this in a way that, is constructive?
Right.
And that's why I was figuring that out, I guess, at a young age.
That's cool. So I had to ask you about Howard Stern.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously very controversial figure.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I listened to him all the time when I was at CIA, driving to work on, when he had the morning show, when he couldn't cuss and everything before XM. But how long did you work for him, and what are your thoughts?
So Howard was like one of those David Letterman type of figures for me. I mean, he's a hero.
Okay.
My dad, it was one of those things where I'd be really young. I'd hear my dad working out in the gym, and he'd be listening to Howard Stern and just cracking up. And I wouldn't have any interest in it, but I was probably very young. And then when I got older and got to high school and more college, I really did a deep dive into the show, and I've always loved people and been a super curious person, and I ask zillions of questions. So his interviews are really what was the first thing that just amazed me and captured me. And basically, once I started getting into his interviews and the long form format, you got to realize in that day and age, when I was even in college, podcasts weren't that big.
Sure.
So there were only a few media personalities that were doing these long form interviews where it was much different than just getting 6 minutes with somebody on a late night talk show or, mini packages on CBS, Sunday morning or something. So you'd have like Charlie Rose doing like PBS interviews in that dark room where everything was black. And I love those.
Oh, right. Okay.
But Howard Stern to me was the best interviewer I ever listened to.
Okay.
And I heard a lot of him and his culture and the way he asked questions, a lot of the things that informed his questioning were kind of the same things I felt in my heart. And I think every time I heard an interview with him, even if I didn't particularly have an interest or like the person, by the end of the interview, I wanted to buy their book. And I was like, everybody's going on to these shows trying to promote a book, trying to promote a movie. What is he doing in these interviews that just makes you fall in love with these people by the end of the interview? So basically, it became a mission for me to become him and learn from him directly. And I would apply every year in college to get an internship with him. And I would basically borderline harass this person via email to just get the opportunity to be in position to intern for him. And I would get rejected every time. And I would do it from freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and I just keep getting rejected every year.
Okay.
But
you were persistent.
Persistent about some things. This time I really wanted this. And then at a certain point, the person who was conducting the interviews and kind of coordinating internships at the Howard Stern show at SiriusXM just told me, Mike, you got to know somebody. There's like 2 or 3 spots available. You got to know somebody to get the job. So I kind of gave everything I had. Mm-hmm. I got an answer that was different than just, email me next week. And she was just honest with me. And I basically gave up in my heart. And one day, it was the week of Thanksgiving. I'm in college and undergrad in the communication school at University of Miami. And I get a phone call saying somebody dropped out. Could you be here next week?
Wow.
And I dropped everything. I left school.
How'd your parents feel about that?
My parents were like 1,000,000% supportive.
Awesome.
Moved to New York, lived on my best friend's brother's roommate's couch for $100 a week.
Right.
Worked out something with the school where I left during my senior year, but I already had too much internship experience, but they were still going to somehow let me graduate. I didn't even care about graduation. At that point, it was like, this is what I need. And I got there, and I basically was like the bitch for the whole show. I got Howard's breakfast. I did some guest research for him. I got the breakfast for the whole staff. I mean, you start at the very, very bottom, but at this point, I loved the show so much. I was listening every single day. I was such a fan.
Right.
To be there and just to see the inner workings of this magical, show and this that I would listen to just on a daily basis. It was a very special thing, and it was a big learning experience for me. And Howard was a really great guy. I didn't get tons of individual time with him, but he was great. And I got to be close with Gary Delabate, who's the executive producer, who I still talk to, who's a great guy.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was always like so helpful and curious about sitting down throughout my time there and being, where do you want to be? What do you want to do?
Nice.
And
it's good to hear.
But it was good. I think it was more good to just be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like certain things where you have a dream and it feels like so far out to grab this thing.
Yeah.
And then you're there. And then there's like this weird feeling that overcomes you where it's like, on one side, you're like, this is the most amazing thing in the world. I can't believe I'm here. And then another side of it's like, wow, these are just regular people. This is a job.
Right.
This is regular people. I'm living on a couch and I got to wake up to get people breakfast.
Right.
And it's kind of like, but I was still psyched up to do it.
Sure.
You're kind of, so it was a great experience in the sense that I'm in the ballpark. Now I just need to learn as much as possible. And I have a lot of, I reflect back a lot on that time thinking, how effectively that place is run and how many people it takes to make a show function, and how people all have like a singular voice, and everybody, that's what's so special about the show. It's like Howard has such a unique voice and such an amazing skill set, and he's so talented, but then all the people behind him that can plug into that voice.
Right.
And, they can craft a show because they know his tone. They know what his mind is thinking before his mind, So it was just amazing to see the whole organism and how it functions. And basically, at a certain point, I was offered a job there, and I just basically, in my heart, knew I wanted to be the next, not Howard Stern, but I wanted to, develop to be the most I could be.
Right.
Solo. So at a certain point, I probably could have stayed there and I would have loved it, but a big part of me was like, I want to
do your thing.
I want to do my thing. And I got kind of like a great education, but now I got to go put this out in the world.
Right. But it's awesome because the way you describe Howard's organization from a leadership standpoint, obviously, whatever you think about Howard, I love him too, but what do you think about Howard personally? He has obviously a great machine working for him, but it doesn't work unless you have a great leader like Howard, great people working for him, direct reports, and support people that all tie into an overarching strategy that makes this thing successful.
Yeah, right? And developing a belief that other people feel so strongly about. I mean, everybody that works there was a kid like me, basically, who listened to this guy and just loved him so much. Right. And he developed a culture where people stay there for so long. I mean, Jason Kaplan, Will Murray, Gary,
Robin.
Steve Brandano. All these people that have been there for so long. And, Robin and Fred are one thing, but even the people that are behind the scenes, they were kids like me listening to him, loved him so much. Right. Got in there, and now they're helping making the magic happen. And I personally think he's at the highest level of his game ever, interview-wise. I think it's a different show. Some people get upset because he's evolved, but I think
leadership is about evolution,
right? And if he didn't, I think he would be criticized if he didn't mature and didn't. So to me, I just find it amazing how he's still pretty controversial. He still says a lot of things that people don't have, the cojones to say. Right. And he is the most insightful interviewer. I really think that's I still listen to his interviews and I'm just I'm enjoying it. And at the same time, I'm trying to take mental notes about how can I implement this,
Which is interesting because of all the people I've interviewed in this podcast, right? They for the most part, they tend to be baby boomers like me. They're either at the journey never ends, I always say, but they've retired or they're close to retirement. And we're talking about our journey. You're in the midst of it, right? At age 29. You asked the question earlier today, am I a leader, right? And so we'll get to that later. But I remember my first leadership experience at CIA was in 1986, when I was given my first leadership assignment as a team leader for this one unit. And that was the first official where I was a team lead, so I was a leader. But obviously my boss saw something in me in terms of traits that allowed him to think that maybe I should get Mike into this position, right? And we both know Kayla. I've mentioned Kayla several times on the podcast. She's my business manager. All the magic that happens on social media. Don't think it's Mike Howard. With the that ain't me. That's Kayla, right? Her team. But the thing is, we positioned the question of, and we had to talk about this earlier. So, my former business manager at Microsoft, wonderful professional named Samantha. We were here at a conference in, sometime, when I was still working at Microsoft. There was a session about the leadership styles of different generations. Yeah. Say baby boomers above the millennials. And it was interesting. The people giving the presentation were all baby boomers. Oh. and they were talking about, and mostly in a disparaging way. I don't think they're meant to be disparaging, but it's kind of a bias. I think that all millennials want to be VPs in 2 days and blah blah blah. And so I actually had Samantha stand up, and I got up first. I said, "We have a millennial here. Instead of you talking around millennials, why don't you just ask the millennial, right?"
Yeah.
So as you're in the midst of your journey,
Yeah.
right? When you've worked for a lot of different entities, obviously in a short period of time, which is I find that fascinating and interesting, and I like it. How do you spell leadership? At age 29, when you look at the people, you don't have to go into obviously the organizations. I don't want to drop the dime on anybody, but what do you consider great leadership qualities in the people you have worked for?
It's interesting. I think what I loved about your book is that I think leadership is so hard to define.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when you say the word leadership to me, it's like, John Wooden, Vince Lombardi, people like that.
Colin Powell.
Right. Yeah. Like they pop into my head.
Right.
The traditional, Bill Belichick.
Right.
People like that pop into my head. I guess I'm a sports nut, but like that's, I guess, a traditional form of leadership to me. But I think what's so great about The Art of Ronin Leadership, your book, is that I think it defines leadership in kind of a more accessible way. I think a big theme in the book, obviously, is being selfless, and I think there's a lot of things that when you apply the leadership attribute in a real life scenario, especially in a functioning organism where you're working for somebody, there's evident leaders and non-leaders.
Right.
And to me, I really value leadership so much. That's why I really don't view myself so much as a leader. I think the way I view myself as a leader is I try to live a life that would make my parents proud, and would make my grandparents proud, and the values that they taught me and the way that they taught me to treat people and the way to conduct myself and be kind. That's maybe the only way I view myself as a leader. I feel like I should be the person, if I'm at a Starbucks and somebody drops something, I want to be that person to pick that up or just do small things. And because I know that's how my parents raised me and that's how they want me to be.
Right.
And I feel like I can be maybe a leader in that sense. And there's moments when I was younger where I would stand up for the kid who was getting made fun of and use humor and my, stupid ridiculousness as a way to maybe deflect and kind of not, limit the blow for certain people. But to me, leadership is so much more than that. And I would like to grow to be somebody like that one day. But there's not a lot of leaders I think you meet every day. Maybe there's small instances where people can have a moment that's filled with leadership. But I think what's so great about your book is when I was reading it, I think it's one of those things where we can all channel it or maybe get into it, but I don't know if everybody's capable of being the same type of person you are, or the same type of person that possesses those qualities. Because even just like the way that you are, people just, you have a charisma, a way that people are drawn to you. I just don't know if everybody can channel that to the degree that you can. I think this is a spectrum. I think if we can get a lot of people on board to try to, practice these types of qualities in daily life, we'll have a better world. Yeah. And if you can be a leader for a day, I think that's a great thing. But to be a leader, period, is a different story than being a leader every day.
Right.
And that's what I think we see that in so many industries and fields. Back to the sports thing. Just Bill Belichick.
Right.
It's just remarkable to me the way that he has a vision, he has a style, and it's this consistent, continued success. And it's kind of, there's just certain people that have those types of qualities, and you can just see the way that people are drawn to them. I have a great boss right now who I love, and it's the best boss I've had.
Awesome.
In the set, really in my older years, like Gary Delabate was a great boss
Sure.
for me, but in being like a more of a role player rather than just being an intern,
Right.
this has been my best boss because he really is a selfless guy.
Okay.
Everything from, if there's a catered lunch, he's not eating until everybody's eating.
See, I love that.
Just little things like
Right.
that mean a ton, know? And it's never about him. He's always like thinking of others, and it's not a micromanaging situation.
Yeah.
Like he knows he's got great people.
Yeah.
He's just there to help in any way.
Because that'll crush you. The micromanager will crush this living spirit out of you.
And it makes going to work and everything such a pleasure.
Yeah.
My last station wasn't like that at all. So it's leadership is such a critical thing because it facilitates an environment. And to me, like even when I interviewed you, every interview I do, it's all about vibe. To me, it's like I don't want anything that's happened on my drive there, whether I got a bad text from somebody. I don't want anything working against me. I want to create an environment where the air is just so light and happy that there's only a possibility for an amazing connection. That's all I want. And if you have other external factors come into the mix, it makes doing your job hard,
Yeah.
So that's why I feel super lucky at Fox 5 because I just have such a great support team, a great staff.
Sure.
Everybody trusts my judgment. And if I need help, there's help.
Right.
And they're just there to really make everything as easy as it can be for me. And if I need assistance, I need assistance.
Right. I mean, I'll answer your question at the very beginning of the interview. I believe you are a leader. Leader doesn't have to have direct reports, but in we've known each other about a year.
Yeah.
I've observed you in a lot of different circumstances when you came here with your camera person, or just kind of what you reiterated, how you treat people, right? You're in the media, and God knows that a lot of people in the media got big egos. It's all about them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe out front it's about everybody else, but we've even in Microsoft or CIA, right? I mean, there's the outward person, and then there's how you actually treat your troops.
Right.
And you have empathy. You think about people. You have angst because you want to,
a lot of angst.
right? And when leaders have angst because you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, especially for the people that you may affect in terms of the actions that you're taking.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you are a leader, which begs the question. Obviously, you're on your journey. You've done a hell of a lot of things up to this point. As you look to the future, and the future is wide open for you, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's Las Vegas because, I'm selfish. I would like to keep you close. But whatever the future holds for you, do you aspire to, in our sort of enterprise parlance, have direct reports and be in a traditional leadership position? Or would you be happy doing what you're doing for the rest of your life and being able to influence other people without having that quote title?
I think it's about influence and reaching people. If anybody's familiar with my work here at Fox 5, I'm not a hard news reporter. I'm a fun guy. So in the morning,
you know how to rope cows. I saw that segment, man.
I'm doing something wacky pretty much every morning, whether it's food, entertainment, lifestyle, sports. Like I'm always doing something that's kind of loose and fun. Now, I think personally in today's age, we're so divisive. We're so, on separate sides of the coin. I think things that bring us together, things that are happy, things that are highlighting good in our community is critical. Everything else is critical too, but I do think that I have more confidence in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think early on in my career, I was so niche in my approach. I was like, kind of, another theme in your book is being able to know your faults and know your limitations is a big thing that you talk about. And I know my limitations way too well. Maybe it's a Jewish thing and, the angst.
No, trust me, I'm black and it's not a Jewish thing.
Okay. So, the angst mixed with, knowing what I'm good at, what I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I just lean into it.
Yeah.
And to me, I love what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. And I wake up every day and I feel so lucky and, gratitude.
That's awesome.
And,
yeah.
And to me, the best thing would be to just be able to kind of continue doing this, but to do it to a larger audience. I started with Mrs. Martin's class.
Sure. Right.
And
look at where you are now.
Now I got Fox 5, Las Vegas, but I would keep I would like to keep that going. But earlier, it's interesting because I didn't really answer your question about millennials.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting because to me, the way that you acted at the Oakland Police Department that day on the job, feeling like you know everything and all that kind of stuff, and feeling like, it's my first day on the job and, I'm already got my thing going here. I'm
the greatest thing since sliced bread, right?
I mean, why is it when you did that back then, what's the difference in somebody doing that now? You can just term that person a millennial.
I know, right? Because I was at 21, if that term was coined back then,
right,
I'd have been a millennial.
But here's the problem. The problem is, in our society today, we need the ability to have those blunders. Look at a blunder like that and the way that played out, how much good you've done for the world. Even it's okay that you have moments like that and everybody is not perfect and an amazing John Wooden level leader at age 21. That's okay. But the thing is, in today's society with social media and all these things, it's it scares even me. One mix up,
right,
and that person, that's it. That person's done. There's no chance for that person to then figure his stuff out, have a mentor, have somebody who can help him a little bit, and then have that person who's still developing fully develop so then they can really contribute to society.
Right.
The way that happened for you and the way the person you became, that's a big thing. But now it's like a 21-year-old does that. They're termed a millennial, and there's so much external pressure that I don't know if that person has the fortitude to continue on in today's age, and that's the worrisome thing. To me, I'm not so interested in the argument of are millennials worse than baby boomers? Do they know as much? Do they think they know as much? I think everybody thinks they know everything.
Right.
I think the truth is it's are we going to give ourselves the opportunity to let people develop so they can really be productive members of society and give them a chance to grow?
Right.
But if we're grading everybody on what they do at 21,
right,
then
when you don't know anything,
I might as well go leave right now.
Right.
So I think that's the thing that I'm worried about. And I think for our generation in particular, I don't know if enough of us with so much of those outside pressures have the ability to stay strong and say, there is still time for me to get better things. And that's the big pressure with our generation is that if you don't start early and you don't have you're behind the 8 ball already if you don't have your major and undergrad figured out 100%. That's just how that's just the culture of parenting and our age and, needing to hit this mark at that age. That's just what it is.
Right.
But look how great something can become even when you have an attitude like that at 21. Who would think the person that had that attitude is writing the art of Ronin leadership?
Right.
But that's how life is.
Exactly. Yeah, what's interesting is I've evolved myself, right? Because I came from a traditional command and control structure, obviously, with police and CIA and to a large extent Microsoft. My boss was a baby boomer.
Yeah.
I think the question shouldn't be, well, the burden shouldn't be totally on millennials. There's a big burden on the baby boomers who are in charge to try to understand, how millennials were raised, and also to remember that one size doesn't fit all. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of baby boomer managers, leaders, they blanket everybody as the same. And I've seen the vast majority of millennials I've personally worked with that work for me at Microsoft were not the stereotypical ones you talk about.
Yeah.
They're hardworking and yes, I was talking to Janice before. One thing that Samantha talked to me, my former business manager, was she said, if you would let me know if I do it right, that's fine. And that was the only thing that was asked. Back in our day, it was like, we don't ask, hopefully we do a good job and the boss will tell us. But it wasn't a big stretch, right?
You're hitting something important. That is the biggest difference, is the need for gratification. It goes into just likes that you get on Instagram to, participation trophies and that culture. So the millennialism has that whole thing of like needing that, yes, you did such a great job. And I definitely have that.
But it's not a negative. With Samantha, she's listening. I'm going to get her on board at some point for the podcast because she's great. It wasn't a negative. That was fine. It was an easy lift for me. You did a great job. Otherwise, she busted her ass like everybody else and then some, right?
Right.
And didn't expect anything special just because you worked for me for a year.
But do you think there's a certain type of individual that it's kind of, and unfortunately we see this play out in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
We see it play out even in like the Me Too movement, where a lot of people who are older generation that have made it in their industry and had to endure sexual harassment, endure certain types of things
racism,
that are awful things and things that should never be, stood for at all. A lot of those people, though, because they endured it, they went through it and they made it through the fire and they got to the end.
Right.
They, in a weird way, they feel it's not a rite of passage, but if I had to go through this.
Why don't you?
Right. And to me, I think that's a shame in a lot of respects.
That's not fair.
The world has evolved.
Right.
Life has evolved. But I do think there is certain things about that when it comes to mentorship and the difference between baby boomers, millennials, and the way the world has changed and the way the workplace has changed. Like, there are certain instances where a mentor everybody's human. Everybody goes through their own thing. It's like, I had to do all this crap.
Right.
I had to endure all of this crap, and you're here day one thinking, you should do this. But
that's where the mentoring comes in.
Right.
To me,
I get both sides. That's what I'm saying. I get it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a shame that people don't recognize how the world has changed, I guess, in that sense.
Right. And that's leadership. Leadership is about being agile.
Yeah.
What's that phrase in the book? What got you here won't get you there, right? And so whether it's a program, a strategy, or whether it's your own leadership abilities that got you here, or your own perceptions of people and generations, you have to change. You have to evolve.
Yeah. And it's okay. There's two different types of people. There's some mentors that are like the hard-nosed type, we're doing it my way, the way that I was raised. I was, my boss treated me like this.
Right.
I became like this. I'm going to treat you like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's value in being in that situation. And I think that's why athletics at such a young age is important, because you learn failure. You learn discipline. You learn.
You're a tennis player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff is great I played every sport, But then I also think there's other mentors and leaders that are like, listen, I went through all this. I have a connection with you, and I want to give you all the info I can give you so you don't have to go through the stuff that I went through. Right. And they're both two different paths. I think both are valuable for the person who's the mentee, but it's just two different ways people are teaching, But it's tough to find mentors. That's why I think you're a special person, because I don't have so many mentors in my life. I have a few, but I would like more who kind of are in my field and kind of felt the closeness to do that. But I think it takes a special person to vibe enough with people in that field where it's like, I want to help you, kind of thing.
So I'm going to end this podcast on something that I'm starting to ask a lot of different people. The world.
It's good we're starting to end, because I'm starting to get tipsy a little.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, look, I'm almost done with my Vesper, but
It's a good idea.
But I'm CIA trained, so I can do a couple more than you do.
How much? What is in a Vesper? How much is stuff's in this?
So you have to be a traditional, like, James Bond fan, right? So
how do I hold it? Because I'm very neurotic.
Oh, you just hold it like this and.
How would James Bond hold it? Does he do it like this? Would he have the finger up with?
Oh no! James Bond's a warrior, so
you can't.
No.
Is it if you saw me at a bar doing this, would you just be like, this guy's an idiot?
Well, first of all, if you do that, it's just like with wine, right? So if you do that, you're actually warming up the liquor.
Don't be. I'm not doing this. I'm not
just hold it like this.
Not like a basketball. I was just doing a little.
And if you feel like it's a little need some balance, just put your little pinky here. And just,
is that how you would do it?
That's how I do it. That's how Bond would do it.
Sean Connery do it? That's what I want to know.
Well, Sean Connery's right there behind you.
Yeah,
how did
he do it? That's what I want to do.
That's how he would do it.
Really?
Yeah. That's how he would do it. Nice,
Bond.
Right? James Bond. Mike Davis.
Doesn't sound as good.
So,
could we call it here before you get to your thing?
Yeah.
Let's have a little fun, okay?
Okay, all right.
I haven't seen the new James Bond.
Okay.
I want Idris Elba to be the next James Bond. That is my dream.
Okay.
I feel like we both like Tom Hardy too.
That would. Yeah.
Idris Elba. I mean, the British, the sophistication. He's handsome. The dude is good looking.
He's all right.
He's good looking.
He don't look like me, but he's all right.
He's tough.
He is tough.
Believable.
Yes. I think he'd be a great Bond.
No brainer. I don't know what Barbara Broccoli's doing right now, but she should be. Is that her last name?
Yes.
Broccoli?
Yeah.
Like the vegetable?
Yeah.
Barbara Broccoli.
Yeah, she's the daughter of Albert, who started this. But
Barbara Idris Elba. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, Idris would be awesome. I think the only problem with Idris is that they're, typically like when Daniel Craig became Bond, like most of the Bonds, they're in their 30s because there's a longevity, right? Daniel Craig actually pushed it.
Yeah.
Right. So Idris, I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his 40s.
Yeah.
And so I think he'd still be good. He's in great shape.
Yeah.
I like Tom Hardy because I think he fits the mold role or the mode more of a Daniel Craig, with a little bit of Sean Connery.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
But he looks good in a tuxedo.
Yeah, you were saying last time we were having this conversation, at dinner, you were saying Inception Tom Hardy is
right.
What you're thinking.
That's right.
What I want to know is, as somebody who grew up loving Bond, loved everything Bond, to have representation as a Bond who's black, what would that mean to you?
It'd be awesome. It would be awesome because, there are a lot of black intelligence officers in the world. Not as many, obviously, as the rest of the population, but they're out there, underrepresented, but doing a great job. And it'd be wonderful to see an African, not an American, obviously, a black James Bond representing Queen and Country. I think that would be awesome. And I think it was similar to when Daniel Craig was announced as Bond. Man, the outcry was like, this can't happen.
Yeah.
Bond's always been like Sean Connery, right? He's always been dark hair, right?
Blonde,
and he's a blonde Bond. And then Casino Royale came out and everybody loved him, right? And I think it'd be the same with Idris, except that Idris actually has more of a following at this stage in his career than Daniel Craig had when he started. So, yeah, I could see Idris doing it. But my bet is on Tom Hardy. But we'll see.
We're going to see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay.
I just
I know, we like talking Bond and Vespers and we're drinking all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the world is in such turmoil now, right? Like you mentioned it, we're a divided country. Everybody's in their own tribes and things like that. At age 29, I'm retired, right? So I still have a vested interest in making sure that the world stays safe and that this country stays safe and blah blah blah. So I'm trying to do my bit, right? But you're in the thick of it at age 29. And I think I know the answer to the question already, but are you optimistic about the future of this world?
I'm an optimistic person by nature, Listen, I'm the worst person to ask about answers when it comes to what we need to do, how to solve anything. Mike Davis is not the guy to give you that answer. So I don't know anything.
Maybe I beg to disagree, but go ahead.
But to me, I think I am worried in certain regards. I think I would be more worried if I was having a kid tomorrow.
Sure.
I'd probably think and look at the world differently. It's a shame. I think it's a shame the way that the tribalism quality to our world is not a good thing.
Right.
The extremes on left and right, I don't like. I personally believe in my heart that there's a lot of people that are in this middle area that have a common understanding of just how the world should function, certain values, belief systems that, they could go different directions a little bit, but there's a common foundation, a benchmark for how people should treat others, conduct themselves in public, and be in society. So to me, I think it's more so about those voices are not being heard, and I don't think they're being catered to in the best way. That's why I'm so happy with what I do, because I don't know if I am the person to solve this crisis. I don't think that's my role to be the guy who brings, understanding about why this person feels this way and why this person feels that way. What I can do is I think I could make a conversation and find a middle ground that would interest both people.
Yeah.
I think I can facilitate a conversation, whether it's based upon food or entertainment,
right,
or just, common interest kind of stuff. I think I could bridge that gap in that way. And I want to help do that. And I think the worst part is I think people are just scared.
Sure.
I'm scared every single day that I'm going to say one thing because I'm just trying to be fun and light and entertaining, and it's going to
offend somebody.
And I have offended people, I'm sure, in the past.
You offended me a couple times, but that's okay.
And that's, I guess the only thing I can say is like, I'm coming at these things with a pure heart. If people know me, they know me. And
right.
That's all I can say.
Right.
I've done certain things in the past. For instance, should I even say this? How much into this Vesper? What is this? What's in a Vesper? Why is this getting me going?
3 parts gin.
Yeah.
1 part vodka. 1 part quinoa.
I'm already grabbing it the wrong way.
Shaken till ice cold.
Hold on. Let me do this the right way.
Shaken till ice cold.
Yes.
Poured into, traditionally it's poured in champagne goblet, but this is martini glass with lemon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can we tell who's the former CIA agent who's like unaffected by
Officer?
Never
say CIA agent. When you see that in the TVs,
it's wrong.
It's wrong.
Okay, CIA.
They don't have the right technical directors or whoever.
All right, see?
CIA officer, right?
We can tell who the CIA officer is and who isn't because
right.
I'm already smashed from one half of a Vespa.
That's okay.
No, I guess what I should say is I just worry. It kind of goes back to that learning
Right.
process, that ability for you to make that mistake with that prostitute and have somebody pull you aside and just let you learn. I'm worried for our young generation and that there's just no room to make a mistake.
Sure. Yeah.
Mistakes are so critical.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it sounds stupid, and it's like that cliche you always hear, but you do learn a lot more from your mistakes than you learn from, your triumphs. It's just how it is.
Right.
And if we don't have a society where you can't even make one tiny blunder, there's a difference between, and that's what's so crazy. It's applicable to everything. The Me Too movement. There's a spectrum, and it's like there needs to be a way to kind of, and I don't have the answer, but we can't have a society where young people just can't even make a mistake,
Right.
because then we're not going to have great people that develop into you who can make a couple mistakes, have a pure heart, stick with something, get a little mentorship, and become great members of society that make our world a better place. If everything is going to be like such a difficult thing to get to that point, and we're judged for every single thing we do, and and I'm not saying, listen, judgment's one thing. Losing your ability to ever have a career in one thing.
Right.
I don't have the answers, but to me, I don't know how many people are going to want to do things. That's the problem.
Sure.
Public service.
Or take a risk.
Like, who wants to be president now?
Nobody.
When I was growing up, it was like everybody in class said, I want to be LeBron James, an astronaut, or the president.
Right. Who wants to be president now?
Nobody.
No. Except for people who are into self-aggrandizement. And,
Right.
Right.
But the point is, and look at him using words like this, self-aggrandizement. I can't even say that after a half vesper. But that's a problem, And that's why I've told you my personal philosophy when it comes to politics and leadership. I believe military service in some form or fashion should be blanket standard, because I think that are ready for political office that already shows you what somebody's about.
Right.
But this is an issue. It's an issue that people are not going to be interested in public service because of the flack they're going to take from every. It's just when you see these videos of people who are like on their school board. I know,
right? Like our school board here.
I would never want to be on a school board to begin with, but nowadays I would never do that. It's
a no-win situation. Yeah.
So we need a society where people are okay to put themselves out there and do things because they're trying to make a positive difference in the world. And if we're super critical and super judgmental, we don't give people a chance to develop and evolve and grow.
Right.
We're not going to have people in our society that are the game changers that make our world a better place.
Yeah. That's well said. I agree 100%. It's definitely food for thought. Mike, I think we positioned 30 minutes. We probably went 5 hours or whatever we did.
Going.
Yeah, we could go on forever, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you, again, taking the time out of your day to
my eyes are so bad.
to be on this podcast.
We're a little behind the scenes here. I can't read. This is an issue with me.
That's what I love about this podcast, because it's real. This podcast is real. Now, this is not from Hollywood. Oh. What'd you get?
Give advice. Look at the camera. I need a Kayla in my life.
I know you need a Kayla in your life.
I know.
But you can't have her. Well, you can, but...
Do you want to do a whole nother... Do you want to...
See, that's what I'm saying. This podcast is real. This is raw.
I have a little...
This ain't no Hollywood production here.
I have a little phlegm in my voice.
Yeah. So what's the note?
Give advice. Look at the camera. Advice from me? I have advice?
Yeah, like Kevin advised, like, you know,
we
after
love
ending
Kevin.
the-
Man, I love this podcast. Man, I love this
This
podcast,
is
man.
behind us. This is great.
I'm loving this.
We can do a whole. Can we do a part 2 on just relationships?
Yeah.
We can if you want to.
Can you just? That would be great. I feel like that would be a very helpful thing for me.
Okay.
But all right, I'll give some advice. All right. So if you're at a bar and you're drinking a Vesper, if you're gonna do this, just go home. If you're about to meet a dude, and she's gonna see you, I mean, it's over. Do what Mike Howard taught you.
You hold it like this.
Exactly. Say
This.
it's like, that's the only way to hold it. The drinking thing during an interview is interesting.
Yeah, you're the first. That was Kayla's
last.
suggestion. No, you're not going to be last. I actually am enjoying this.
You like it?
Yeah, but it has to be the right person. Like you and I could do this. I can't do this with everybody
Yeah.
because not everybody will be comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
But you are, so we're good.
All right. I'm going to give advice. Okay? I'm going to give some advice. The first thing that comes to mind when Kayla hands me this is, to be honest, I think I have that picture. I have 2 pictures in my memory that will always be there.
Okay.
One of them is your dad getting married to your mom at that Japanese wedding,
Yeah.
where it's him and like 27 Japanese people, and he's the one black guy there. I love that.
Yeah, he's pretty noticeable. Yeah.
I love that picture. The other picture I love of you is that little picture of you when you're a little kid and you have the gun. To me, I think it's such an amazing thing to have a dream when you're younger. Have something. Dream is even, to me, dream it's even too in the ether. Let's just say something you love.
Okay.
Because at a young age, you love stuff. To have something you love at a young age and you take to, and to be able to see that through is such a special thing. And I don't have all the answers on how to make that happen. I think there's a combination of fortitude, a combination of a lot of things. But I think the best thing, and the thing that I always think about with you and me being here, is that if you surround yourself with great people, I mean really great people, everything in life is just a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, it's hard. I've been, since 18, I've been traveling away from family that I'm super close with. My parents and my brother, and it's tough, but that's why if you're the type of person who allows people into your life and you're lucky enough that great people want to be around you, don't deny that, because that's I know Kayla can speak to this too. I mean, that's what's so special about you and Janice, and everybody who knows you, who listens to this podcast, knows how amazing you guys are. I mean, you guys treat almost everybody you come in contact with like family, and you really welcome people into your life. You offer them help. You offer them everything that means a lot in this world. And so to me, I feel super lucky to have you in my life, to have that support, to have a person that not only that I can ask life questions to, but just a friend, somebody who is there for you. So I think if you can have as many Mike Howards and Janice Howards in your life, you got to be doing something right. I don't have any really answers, but to me, advice, if you can cultivate a team around you of people like you, you're good.
I appreciate that, man. Cheers.
Cheers. I know how to hold the best.
He does. He knows how to rap.
I'm cool.
Okay.
I mean, it's Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, and then could I be the next?
Yeah, and Mike Davis.
Could I be James Bond?
Of course, why not?
I'd like that.
Davis. Mike Davis.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Mike, for spending the time here. I think this has been a fascinating conversation.
It's been all over.
It's been all over the place.
All over.
But I know people will be able to glean things out of this. And again, I said earlier today that you're obviously you're the youngest person we've had on this. Your journey has been phenomenal. Your journey is going to continue. Thank you for being the person that you are. You are definitely a selfless person that cares about people, and you're the kind of people that we need on this planet. So thank you very much. So that's it for today for the Art of Ronin Leadership podcast. Kayla's talking to me about it. So Kayla and her team were able to put together some shirts, the Art of Ronin Leadership shirts.
Where's my shirt?
It's coming.
Oh my god!
I just got mine the other day. I didn't even know she was going to do it.
That is a cool shirt. Is that like a what? It's like a dry fit, right?
Yeah.
Can I feel it? Let me feel that.
Yeah, you can feel this. Yeah. So it's got. This is only one of three.
He's very muscular too. For everybody who's watching it.
And you got this in the back here. See.
The art of Ronin Leadership. I love that.
So this will be available after the beginning of the year, and so we'll be on our website.
Yeah.
But
can I do one plug for the book?
Yeah.
Because I did interview you.
Yeah.
I think I did get a lot of feedback from our interview, and I mean, listen, how many people in the world are CIA officers, not agents?
Very good.
Had an interview, a 45-minute interview with Bill Gates. I mean, a wealth of knowledge. It's a very easy to read, simple book that gets right to the point. And it's direct experience that is an uplifting thing, because you read the book and you really are like, wow, like I can implement leadership qualities into my life. And I got it. Just go on. You can go to Amazon. You go to MikeHowardAuthor.com, right?
He's doing everything. I actually don't have to do the end right now because you just took care of it.
No,
Thank you, man.
You really should, because it's a great. It really is a great book. And I'm a sucker, to be honest. I love the Ronin. We should explain it. A masterless samurai. I love that concept. Explain that.
So, I love Mike because getting back in the interview mode, but I love it. So, I'm half Japanese. I've always been into martial arts, well, at least since I was 14. Those of you who don't know, Ronin means masterless samurai back in the ancient days of the samurai. So, samurai were swordsmen, but they were poet warriors, right? I mean, they did, not only were they martial, and they were there to protect the shogun, different lords during the feudal days of Japan, but they were artists and poets and everything else. They were kind of the full package. And then when Japan centralized its government, they created an imperial army. No more need for the samurai, right? Sort of like, and the samurai ended up being like the gunfighters of our Old West. They roamed the countryside, selling their swordsmanship to whoever would hire them. Ronin means masterless samurai. And to me, as I was writing the book and thinking about the concept for the book, leadership is a journey. And throughout that journey, you're working for different masters, you're different leaders, some good, some not so good. But at the end of the day, if you're diligent about wanting to be a leader, learning the art, because it is an art of leadership, and willing to put yourself into the breach for your troops, you develop and forge your own brand and style of leadership. It's not like I'm trying to be Colin Powell, or I'm trying to be Indira Gandhi, or I'm trying to be somebody. I may take some traits from them, but ultimately I develop my own style and forge my own path. And that's what Ronin leadership means. I'm no longer beholden to any master in terms of a dogma of leadership. This dogma, I forged my own path. And then that path continues, never ends. Till the day you croak and you drop dead, you're always going to be learning and growing. And that's what Ronin leadership is all about.
Yeah. And I think, to me, there's a quote that, like in Invictus and Nelson Mandela, and when he was in prison, that he kept, it was from I think an Irish guy or something, but there was a quote that was like, I am my own captain, I am my own master kind of thing. Right. And to me, when I was reading the book, it was more so about, we can't choose who our bosses are.
Right. Right.
So to have the self-discipline and to have the ability to view yourself as a Ronin, as a masterless samurai, where you have your own code, you have your own code of conduct the way you want to conduct yourself and the way you want to interact with the world, that's what's important, because we can't control what we can't control. But if we treat ourselves and the way we interact with the world in a particular way, that's all we can ask of people. And that's why when I'm reading the book, I think it's so great because there's this dynamic of, what makes somebody who is in the leadership role a great leader. What makes somebody a great mentor. And if you are lucky enough to have those people in your life, that's amazing. But just because you don't have a great person in your life who is your boss or who is a mentor, you can still have these qualities and conduct yourself in a way that is admirable and is beneficial to the world. And I think that's what I love about the book.
Yeah. Well, amen to that. Yeah, I appreciate your thoughts on the book and your endorsement. And it means a lot. So thank you again for being on the podcast. We'd really love to hear your thoughts on the podcast. This has been fascinating, and like you said, we could go on forever and ever. I love you, brother.
I love you. Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe you. I mean, I'm getting tipsy. I'm there. I might be there.
That's okay. That's okay.
Is that okay?
It's okay. That's okay.
If I was James Bond, it's over. The guy already got.
No. A real James Bond would have backup, so you'd be okay.
I'm like it's over.
Yeah.
The mission's failed. I can't even. I need a nap and a cheeseburger.
All right. Well, we're gonna feed you in a little bit, so don't worry about it. So
there you go.
Anyway, so thank you all of you for listening to this podcast, the Art of Ronin Leadership podcast. And again, we'd love to hear your feedback. Hit the subscribe button. Again, we've got some merchandise coming out at the beginning of the year. Please, if you haven't bought the book, look at MikeHowardAuthor.com or Amazon. .com and go ahead and purchase the book. But
can I do a shameless plug for?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. You're in the media. You can do whatever the heck you want.
See, you got it. If you're in the Las Vegas community, if you're not in Las Vegas and you just love community-oriented stuff, you love lifestyle, you love food, you love entertainment, you got to watch more. 10 a.m. on Fox 5 Las Vegas. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time.
It is a lot of fun.
I've interviewed this guy. We have a lot of fun.
And you do a service to this community because, like you said earlier, there's so much angst in the world. It's good to turn on more and just to see some just fun, good stuff in this world.
There's a lot of, and you know what? We're working on a little piece that's going to be playing on our show soon, where it's just all this ridiculous stuff that I've done over the year between costumes, outfits, singing, dancing, ridiculous stuff. I mean, it's hopefully we're putting a smile on your face and just making you feel less alone. But it's a lot of fun. So if you tune in, it's at more Fox 5 and you can watch us 10 a.m. on weekdays.
I was gonna see this dude's a professional, man. I love it.
I
feel like an amateur with this dude, right?
Listen, we have we have a lot of serious, important people watching this.
Yeah.
They're already like, wow, this guy's a lightweight.
Nah. Anybody calls you a lightweight, they got to deal with me.
See.
All right. Well, have a good one. Until the next podcast, we'll talk to you soon.